When am I not crying in public? It's so upsetting. Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
Rachel Zegler finds herself at the center of yet another controversy following the major backlash and boycott over the release of the latest Snow White trailer.
The fan reaction was insane. We didn't even see what they were clapping for.
The audience has taken to calling her Snow Brown, sparking an online uproar that has left both Zegler's career and Disney's reputation hanging by a thread. Frankly, the entire situation has spiraled into chaos, with fans and critics alike pointing out that nearly everything about this remake feels like a misstep. To make matters worse, reports suggest that Zegler has been dropped from multiple Disney projects, spanning live-action and animated films, as well as rumored Snow White sequels. What was once a promising career for the actress is now overshadowed by the sheer scale of public outrage. And for Disney, this storm isn't just about one actress. It's a reckoning for their creative choices and the direction they've taken with their beloved classics. Disney's Snow White reboot was clearly a big gamble, with sequels and a whole franchise reportedly in the works. But after Rachel Zegler's PR disasters, it seems Disney has hit the brakes hard, scrapping all planned projects and cutting ties, as if trying to erase the entire ordeal from memory. It's a drastic move for a company already under fire, but they appear to be in damage control mode after what's been a relentless wave of backlash. Meanwhile, Zegler's response isn't helping matters. Instead of stepping back and letting the situation cool down, she's doubling down with emotional outbursts and controversial posts on Twitter. What might have been just a rough patch has spiraled into what many are calling a complete PR meltdown. And the fallout doesn't stop with Zegler. The controversy is hitting Disney at one of the worst possible times. CEO Bob Iger, nicknamed Bob Liar by critics, finds himself scrambling to control the narrative as the company faces mounting challenges. From a string of box office flops to declining theme park attendance and struggling streaming services, Disney is already on shaky ground. This Snow White disaster feels like the last thing they needed. Snow White remake is shaping up to be one of the company's most contentious projects, and Rachel Zegler's reaction to the backlash is only adding fuel to the fire. Reports suggest she's furious, not just at Disney, but at the very fans boycotting the film. This backlash from families, nostalgic for the original classic, has morphed into a full-scale boycott, and it's putting serious pressure on Disney's box office expectations. Instead of winning audiences over, Zegler's outspoken comments and perceived disdain for the fanbase have deepened the divide. For many, the remake feels like a betrayal of the beloved 1937 classic, and the frustration is palpable. Families who once flocked to Disney films are now rejecting the reboot outright, claiming it strays too far from the charm and magic of the original. Rachel Zegler's reported plan to release a statement targeting fans critical of the Snow White remake is nothing short of a risky move, one that could backfire spectacularly. By labeling critics as part of a loud minority of misogynists opposed to Disney's DEI initiatives, Zegler risks alienating an even larger segment of the audience. Rather than acknowledging the legitimate grievances of fans who feel betrayed by the remake's sweeping changes, this approach could come across as dismissive and inflammatory. The reality is, much of the backlash isn't about resistance to diversity. It's about a sense of nostalgia, loyalty to the original story, and frustration over what many see as Disney's trend of performative modernity. Fans aren't just criticizing the casting or the changes. They're upset that the heart of a beloved classic has been stripped away in favor of a reimagining that feels disconnected from its roots. Meanwhile, Disney seems equally out of touch, doubling down on its DEI messaging and failing to navigate the backlash effectively. Instead of addressing the legitimate concerns of its core audience, the company appears to be digging in, further alienating the very people they rely on for box office success. This situation feels like a perfect storm: a frustrated fanbase, a lead actress who's doubling down instead of stepping back, and a company whose PR strategy seems more focused on damage control than bridging the gap with their audience. Reports of her tirades blaming fans, director Mark Webb, and even her co-star Gal Gadot for the backlash suggest a chaotic behind-the-scenes environment. Zegler's inability, or unwillingness, to take responsibility for her part in the controversy is doing her no favors, especially as public perception of the project continues to nosedive. It's no wonder Disney executives are scrambling. With tensions reportedly growing between Zegler and Gadot, the company is stuck in an impossible situation. Gal Gadot, being a more established star with broader appeal, might represent one of the few bright spots of this troubled production. If tensions between the two actresses continue to leak into public view, it will only deepen the PR disaster. As for Disney's emergency meetings and damage control, it's clear the studio is trying to salvage what it can from this project. They likely understand that doubling down on Zegler's controversial statements or her deflection of blame would further alienate audiences. Executives urging her to backtrack on her planned statement shows they're aware of the risk of escalating the backlash. Still, if these reports are accurate, Zegler's frustration and apparent refusal to listen to advice might leave Disney with no choice but to distance themselves from her entirely. The bigger issue, though, is the Snow White project itself. Even if Disney manages to smooth over the internal drama, the public's trust in the remake has already been severely damaged. Between the changes to the story, the missing dwarfs, the reimagined prince, and now the infighting, it's hard to see how Disney can spin this into a box office success. The irony here is almost poetic. Disney is throwing everything they've got into salvaging the Snow White remake, yet every step they take seems to deepen the public's discontent. It's like they're caught in a never-ending loop of damage control that only generates more damage. The backlash, instead of subsiding, keeps growing louder, fueled by Rachel Zegler's increasingly divisive actions and remarks. Zegler targeting fans and critics as the source of her woes might be the final nail in the coffin for this project. By alienating the very audience Disney desperately needs to win back, she risks turning the backlash from a loud minority into a near-universal rejection. Disney executives clearly see this. Pushing her to backtrack on her planned statement suggests they understand how catastrophic it would be to pour gasoline on the fire. Meanwhile, Bob Iger and Disney's leadership are undoubtedly panicking. With the company already navigating financial challenges and lukewarm reception to other projects, Snow White was supposed to be a safe bet. Instead, it's become a lightning rod of controversy, and Zegler's behavior is making an already precarious situation even worse. Many fans had already been frustrated by the changes to the beloved classic, but to now be blamed for voicing their concerns? It's a step too far for most. And this doesn't just hurt Zegler, it drags Disney's reputation down with it. At a time when Disney can least afford another PR disaster, this project is shaping up to be one of its biggest. But this time, the stakes are through the roof. Rachel Zegler is reportedly livid after losing out on a lucrative multi-million-dollar deal with Disney, a deal that could have brought her close to $20 million across several projects. Now, those opportunities have vanished, buried under the fallout from her own controversial comments and social media missteps. Here's the kicker. Rather than acknowledging her part in the backlash, she's pointing fingers at fans, labeling them as a so-called loud minority of hardcore Snow White enthusiasts who she claims are responsible for derailing her career. It's a classic Hollywood move. Blame the audience when things go south, but fans aren't buying it. Many feel this is yet another example of a celebrity refusing to take accountability, and the backlash is only intensifying. People aren't just upset about the changes to Snow White anymore, they're frustrated with Zegler's dismissive and combative approach to criticism. And you can bet that Disney is feeling the heat. Bob Iger is reportedly scrambling behind the scenes, desperate to control the fallout from what's quickly becoming one of the company's biggest debacles in years. With the Snow White remake already drowning in negative buzz, Disney is said to be planning expensive reshoots and revisions to salvage the project. But here's the million-dollar question. How much more money can they throw at this sinking ship before it's declared a total loss? The backlash shows no signs of slowing. Social media is flooded with dislikes, negative comments, and memes mocking the project. It's not just about Rachel Zegler anymore. This is shaping up to be a Disney-wide catastrophe. The live-action division, which was already struggling with lukewarm receptions for previous remakes, is now under intense scrutiny. The optics are disastrous, with executives and even shareholders reportedly questioning if Snow White can even break even, let alone turn a profit. For Rachel Zegler, though, it's a personal freefall. Losing out on lucrative contracts and watching her reputation unravel in real time, she's quickly becoming a cautionary tale about how not to handle backlash. Every move Rachel Zegler has made to defend herself seems to backfire spectacularly, turning a bad situation into a PR nightmare. What's particularly notable is how Disney initially positioned Zegler as the face of the Snow White reboot. She was supposed to headline everything: Thanksgiving specials, Christmas performances, New Year's Eve appearances, red carpet premieres. But now, all of that has been scrapped. The promotional spotlight has shifted to Gal Gadot, who's taking over as the film's new marketing centerpiece. Gadot's role as the evil queen now seems like Disney's last lifeline for saving this project. It's a sharp pivot, and one that highlights just how much faith Disney has lost in Zegler. Gadot's polished and drama-free persona is the exact opposite of Zegler's current media image, and Disney is clearly hoping she can salvage what's left of the film's reputation. The financial implications of this mess, though, absolutely staggering. Disney, already knee-deep in backlash, is reportedly throwing even more money at the Snow White project, hoping reshoots and revamped marketing will salvage what's left. They're desperately trying to reframe the film in a positive light. But with every additional dollar spent, the chances of recouping the investment seem slimmer and slimmer. Reshoots, after all, don't come cheap, and neither does an overhaul of marketing strategy. This is a project that was already a massive financial gamble, and now it's teetering on the brink of becoming one of Disney's most expensive missteps. With negative reactions flooding social media and audiences openly boycotting the remake, it feels like no amount of spin can save this sinking ship. Ultimately, the issue comes down to one thing: accountability, or the complete lack of it. Zegler's refusal to take responsibility and instead point fingers speaks volumes. At a time when Disney is trying to repair its fractured relationship with audiences, her actions and attitude only deepen the divide. What are your thoughts on Rachel Zegler's desperate attempts to sabotage her career? Drop your comments below. Please subscribe for more updates. See you in the next one.